故郷の町が焼かれたその日に、みんな軍に志願した。あの日の僕らは、命を懸けうるものがあると信じていた。
Valkyria Chronicles 4 is a turn-based strategy RPG developed and published by Sega. As someone who lives for strategy RPGs, the Valkyria Chronicles series has always been on my radar, although it sits on my long list of backlog games, and we all know how long it takes to get to those. Luckily, Sega has released the next game in the franchise, which means I can finally try my hand at the series I've heard so many good things about. As always, I'll try to keep major spoilers out and try to limit what I show from the story so you can experience it for yourself. And also big thanks to Jonathan and Sega for providing me with a review copy of the game. You guys are awesome. And with that said, let's dive into this review. The story takes place at the same time as Valkyria Chronicles 1, but will focus on a new set of characters. It follows the journey of Claude Wallace and his comrades from Squad E. It begins simple enough. We have the evil Eastern Imperial Alliance at war with the righteous Atlantic Federation. Our heroes of Squad E will have to fight against immeasurable odds in order to save their country and put an end to the war. At first I was worried if this was all there was to the story, but once I progressed past the second half of the game, that's when things started getting interesting. Things weren't so clear-cut anymore, and I could not only see the effects of war on those fighting it, but with the civilians as well. All the playable and non-playable characters introduced have stories that are easy to empathize with. These come together to answer the questions of what it means to live and what it means to protect something. I always hope for a bad ending because I rarely see those, but for Squad E, I was hoping for the best and rooting for them the whole way through. The amount of playable characters was surprisingly large. Naturally, this means that screen time will be limited for a majority of them. The game focuses on 4 main protagonists: Claude, Kai, Riley, and Roz, with a few members of Squad E as supporting characters. They fall into your typical tropes, but really, it's hard not to with so many around. Claude is the smart and dependable tactical commander that everyone can put their hopes into. Kai is cool, calm, and calculated. Kinda tomboyish, but doesn't let anybody push her around. Roz is your typical spontaneous hothead who charges in first and thinks later, which gets them into trouble. And Riley is the scientist, although slightly naive at times. The group dynamic of these 4 shape up well and provide a good focus point on the story. They are lovable and it was easy for me to grow attached to them. I especially like how Claude, the hero of the story, shows the most growth. His character is well-rounded and I learned the most about him, so I grew the most attached to him. I can see how he changes as he completes more missions, but I also see how much of an effect his past has on him. The rest of Squad E remains in the shadow, only showing their face during the few cutscenes sprinkled across the game, and without much dialogue of their own. I found their side stories to help relieve the facelessness of these characters, even though they're brief. Each side story will only have a handful of cutscenes, and there is only one mission devoted to a group of 2 or 3 characters. Regardless, I enjoyed playing through their side missions and gaining a deeper understanding of their personalities and backstories. While the story is captivating, it is outdone by the gameplay and progression system. I usually prefer a traditional grid system for my strategy games similar to Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tactics. But Valkyria Chronicles 4's Blitz battle system is absolutely amazing. There are so many things happening on the battlefield that is always engaging and fun, but I never felt overwhelmed. I love the mix of real-time and turn-based play. Turns swap back and forth between you and the opponent. CP is used during these turns to command units out on the field, and the turn ends once all the CP has been used. Or you can manually end it, saving CP for the next turn. Once a unit has been selected, you can control that unit to execute your strategy, but everything happens in real time. If any enemies have you in their sights, they will start firing and you better know what you want to do. Action points are used to move, so if you just run around and panic, you might end up in a worse spot than you were previously. Luckily, unlike most strategy games I've played, the same units can be moved more than once per turn, but will have diminishing action point recovery. This opens up even more options, allowing you to get to a safer spot or charge in with one character. To attack, you actually have to aim, but while this is happening, you won't be shot at, so there's no pressure to 360 no scope. The combat gameplay depicts the battlefield setting well and gives that feeling of excitement as I run for cover or sneak by enemies. Valkyria Chronicles 4 also nails the level design. They're not too small where everyone is shooting each other right when the fight starts, but also not too big where you feel like you have to trek 1,000 miles to reach your target. Each map also has various terrains and obstacles that can be used for an advantage, keeping turns interactive. You can hide in the grass, reduce incoming damage by taking cover in sandbags, or move to high elevation, making snipers and grenadiers more effective. Not only did I have to keep the terrain in mind, there were many other factors that kept me on my toes when carrying out my plans. The best part is, it all works cohesively to enhance the experience. There are a wide variety of unit classes, with Grenadiers being a new addition. Each unit has a role to play on the battlefield, as they all have different weapons, abilities, and weaknesses. Individual characters also have their own set of potentials, which are based off their character traits. As characters develop and grow, they may also improve on their potentials to match that growth. A nice little detail I appreciated. This mechanic, while frustrating at times, was also interesting because it made battles more dynamic. For instance, Rebecca has a potential called Conservationist, which doesn't let her use Ragnades. So there have been times where I needed to heal a teammate, but then have that potential trigger, which ruined my plans. Of course, when good potentials trigger, it was a great feeling. Last stands, orders, and ship orders are more options to use in battle. Last stands are actions that happen when a unit has been downed. It lets them counter, act one more time before going, or raising a teammate's morale. These were mostly useless since my characters don't die often, and when they do, it rarely activates. It's a cool feature, but one that I haven't touched on much. For orders, there are many at your disposal that provide buffs and benefits to troops, but like Last Stands, orders rarely played a part in my strategies outside of a few useful ones like medic and rapid deploys. Ship orders follow a similar feeling. Nothing too crazy, but radar was nice to have for certain maps to set up plays. The cool thing is, special opponents can also use orders, making battles a little more difficult and surprising. The great gameplay is supported through a well-designed progression system. After each battle, you'll gain experience points and DCT, which is used to upgrade equipment. I was pleasantly surprised that these upgrades affected all weapons and armor of that type. Experience works in a similar way. It's accumulated in a pool and can be freely distributed, so I didn't have to worry about characters being left behind because I didn't use them. But instead of leveling up each character, you level up a class so all characters in that class will benefit. As each class levels up, they will gain new potentials and new orders will also unlock. Vehicle customization is the most varied, as there are many ways to strengthen them through the limited mods that can be equipped. Whether it's giving more AP, improving aim, or fortifying its defenses, you can set them to fit whatever needs you have for the upcoming battle. Characters don't have this freedom, but they do get to use additional weapons as they level up, which I think makes up for it. The art direction of the game and its graphics is unique to the Valkyria Chronicles series, and I immediately fell in love with it. The characters and environment are rendered to look like watercolor compositions, distinguishing itself from other games. It doesn't have that breathtaking awe of games like Dragon Quest XI or Monster Hunter World, but that's not what it's trying to go for. The game still looks superb with great care to details on characters and the environment, and I for one wouldn't mind if they stuck with this style forever. The soundtrack is composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto, the same person who worked on the previous Valkyria Chronicles soundtrack, as well as other notable works like Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy XII. I found the soundtrack to be the weakest part of the game, but that's not to say it's bad. The music accompanies all the scenes well, and I enjoyed listening to them as I played through the game. It's just overshadowed by everything else I experienced, and it didn't help exemplify the emotions of the scenes. Valkyria Chronicles 4 is one of the top strategy games I have played, and I am absolutely in love with it. All parts of the game just work so fluidly together that it really just blew me away. The engagement of combat is on a different level compared to other strategy games I've played, and I'm hooked. I don't want to put the game down. I love war stories and the themes explored in those settings, so the story is already tailored towards my preference, and progression feels good. There isn't a single thing that I had a problem with in this game, although having an auto-advanced dialogue option would be nice. Valkyria Chronicles 4 scratched that big itch I had for a strategy RPG, leaving me fully satisfied at the end. It's won me over, and I'm a fan. With such a great IP, I'm excited to see what else Sega has in store for the series. So those are my thoughts on Valkyria Chronicles 4. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this series is kinda niche but has a dedicated fan base, so are you a veteran who has played the previous games, or are you experiencing this for the first time like I am? Let me know what you think of the game and if it interests you. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.